Hi, my name is Luis Chavez Rodriguez, and this is my autobiography for Human Development Counseling 505. My mother was very responsive to my babbling, which was... okay. The first stage in human development is prenatal, which is conception to birth. I was born late and my mom had to be induced. Post-term pregnancies are at higher risk of mortality and morbidity, and there's a higher risk for complications during labor. As you can see, I was born and there were no complications during labor. The stage infancy is from birth to 2 years of age. For this section, I'm going to be talking about attachment. My attachment with my primary caregiver, which was my mother, was a secure attachment. Whenever she left the room, I would start crying, and whenever she came back in the room, I would stop crying. As a result of my secure attachment with my mother, I tend to be really creative and really empathetic. Toddler is ages 2 to 3. My mother was very responsive to my babbling, which helped me develop a large vocabulary. Early childhood is ages 3 through 6. During class, we talked about how at this stage we learn relationship behaviors from our primary caregivers or parents or guardians. My father was always very verbally abusive and sometimes very physically abusive. My father was always jealous and non-trusting of my mother. I picked up on this behavior and I reflect this behavior in my relationships, and I tend to be very jealous and have trust issues. In class, we also talked about how a lot of children at this stage attend preschool, and we also discussed how there are two schools where one advocates for parents being present with the child at school while the other does not. For me personally, having my mother just leave me at the preschool was very traumatic, and I would cry, and I even tried to jump the fence one time to go home. For me, I think that this is one of the reasons why I have abandonment issues today. Middle childhood is ages 6 to 11. At this time, or at this stage, I was socially excluded a lot from my peers, which led to a lot of issues in self-esteem and confidence. The book also discusses about fixed versus growth mindset. I personally grew up with a growth mindset. Yes, people told me I was smart. Yes, I had those type of reinforcements, but at the same time, I knew that I wasn't the smartest, but I always tried harder. I think that this type of mindset has allowed me to be really resilient and kind of just push through difficulties, in not only in school but also in my daily life. Adolescence is ages 12 to 19. Erikson posed this theory of identity versus confusion identity or role identity. At this stage, it is the adolescent's responsibility to kind of create a coherent sense of self and have an acceptable kind of role in society. For me, I had a difficult time because when it comes to identity, I was kind of just all over the place. For the most part, this was because of my sexual orientation. I was having a difficult time kind of coming to terms with my sexual orientation, and I, more often than not, acted like somebody else just to try to cover or hide my sexual orientation. But once I came out and once I came to terms with my sexual orientation, I felt a weight come off of my shoulders, and I felt much more fluid, coherent, much more myself. For me personally, having to kind of maneuver or explore, my sexual identity, and also my other identities as a person of color, as a transborder person, it was definitely confusing and definitely hard, but it also made me challenge the perspectives that I carried and challenge the way that I viewed the world. And because of this, because of my identities, because of my intersections, I think that I have a very complex perspective of the world. A much more deeper and much more meaningful perspective. And that brings us to the early adulthood stage, which I'm in right now, ages 19 to 30. For this section, I want to talk about binge drinking. So I did have my stage where I drank a lot, but that was because of hardship, because of emotional hardship, and I was trying to cope with pain. And so that resulted in gastritis, and I got sick. I went to the hospital and kind of learned from that experience and helped me see, why people engage in substance abuse and that type of self-destructive behavior, which has led me to become more empathetic and understanding to other people. At this stage, I also engaged in risky sexual behavior. This was also due to kind of this emotional pain, emotional hurt. And I think that it also has to do a lot with like my abandonment issues and insecurities and kind of just this need to feel wanted or to feel loved or cared for. And so being in this situation has also allowed me to kind of be more understanding of people and seeing the needs, especially of a lot of folks like me who are people of color, working class, LGBTQ, transborder, and has made me want to do something about these issues or these problems, these disparities. This is my autobiography. Thank you so much for watching my video.